I'm going to open the September 7, 2022 Select Board meeting at 6 o'clock. Amendments to the agenda. I just have an update at some point under Select Board. Lucian called with a Brook Road Culvert update. I also want to mention that we are having a guest, I forget what her name is, from the Northeast Kingdom broadband group. And when she comes on, we're hoping that we can just put everything on pause so we can take her up. There's a little bit in your packet tonight about the proposal. We vaguely discussed it last meeting and you had a few questions, so we invited her to come, or Kurt did. So Dolan, if you could just let me know if you see her arrive.
I will. You should be able to see her up there, and you might hear a little tone.
Okay. So on to the approval of the minutes of August 17th. Take a motion to approve in a second.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of August 17th. I'll second.
We need to make any corrections, omissions, everything all set? Okay, if so, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
There she is.
So we're gonna wait for the comments on the community and take up the Northeast Kingdom Craftsbury Wolcott broadband opportunity. I am gonna allow Kurt to take over because he's been doing the research on this.
Yeah. So, Krista, can you hear us? Okay, great. Yeah.
Sorry, yes, I can.
No problem. And I see we have Bruce Wheeler is online as well. So
Yes.
thank you very much for coming on such short notice. There is a proposal at hand from the NEK broadband, which is an opportunity in which a backbone is being built in Craftsbury, and there is a spur opportunity in which there can be an extension to the spur into Wolcott, specifically Upper Town Hill Road, Upper East Hill Road. And please correct me if I get any of this wrong. So the opportunity is actually one in which Wolcott could participate by way of our ARPA funds. And these ARPA funds would need to be allocated by September 15th. So it's just a week away from now. And the 15th would allow Wolcott to have matching funds coming from the CBB, the broadband board. And I believe there's actually two matches that come through. And
That's right. One comes from the Vermont Community Broadband Board, and then one comes from NEK Broadband.
Right. So the dollar amount, as I understand it, to Wolcott with ARPA funds would be $52,917. And then there'll be these two matches on top of it. Krista was good enough to kind of clarify some of the questions that we had. One of them being that this spur could reach 45 premises in Wolcott. It would speed up the construction by as much as 4 years. Is that reasonable?
Yep.
which is a significant speed up. And potentially in the summer or fall of 2024, we could have high-speed internet in those locations. Town Hill Road would be 1.3 miles, which would hit 26 premises. East Hill Road would be 1.3 miles also, which would hit 12 premises. And Manley Road at 0.65 miles would hit 7. And I believe out of that, that grouping of 45 premises, 14 of them have been identified by the state as high priority. Do I have that right? Okay.
That's correct.
And I believe high priority means either a telehealth customer or a student. Is that?
Those are the primary pieces that the state has. Yeah, it's a state identification from the state of Vermont.
Yeah. Okay.
So,
So that's the overview. And again, I appreciate you coming on so that you can answer any questions that might come from you.
Will that coverage expand in future years?
yeah, absolutely. So, yep. So NEK Broadband is committed to bringing service to every unserved address in the Northeast Kingdom and the town of Wolcott. As you know, you're part of both NEK Broadband and Lamoille. So currently that that separation is basically along the electric distribution lines where we cover the Hardwick electric area, and then they cover, I'm not sure what that is, maybe Morrisville Electric is the other section.
Yeah.
So that's where that current split out is right now. The NEK Broadband build out is across 56 towns. It's approximately between 2,500 and 2,800 miles, depending on certain things that certain people should be doing, but if they don't, in order to get to the unserved. So it's, it's a big project. It's $165 to $185 million. And so what we're doing, and I don't know if I'm on a big screen, but I'm happy to share just to show the maps because sometimes they're helpful. Would you like me to do that?
Yes, please. You're on a big screen. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, could you make me a co-host?
To be able to share now.
Great, thank you.
I'll get it up there.
Okay, so just get those off. Okay. So this is this big green blob is a application to the USDA where there's less than 6 people per square mile, but it's not really relevant to you. Okay, so what we're doing, we currently have fiber built down here in Concord that was built as part of a CARES project, and here in Waterford that was built as part of a USDA project. And we're building our backbone first throughout the entire Northeast Kingdom. But we inherited the fiber from the state of Vermont, right? So now we own this fiber that goes from Hardwick to Craftsbury, Albany, up, and then we own this red part over here, and we own all the strands in the orange and the yellow. So those are all parts of our backbone, including this the stark blue piece. So those are the parts that are built. It's about 165 miles. And then these light blue pieces are the pieces that we're building now. So we're building to Maidstone, we're building to Brighton, and we're building over here to Hardwick to close the loops on here and create redundancy and resiliency through the network. And at the same time, we're putting in our OLTs, which are the equipment that help provide service to each of the areas. And the opportunity is basically, as we're building out the backbone everywhere, we're giving towns the option to sign on with ARPA funds in order to extend out to certain spurs. So Peachum, Groton, Reigate, Walden, and Hardwick have all committed funds in addition to Derby, Derby, and Waterford right here. So those are the 7 towns that have committed funds to date. So as we're building the backbone, we're doing the make ready and then building out the fiber infrastructure to spurs off of that backbone at the same time. In this area, it's a little bit different, right? Because this is existing fiber. With the Wolcott situation, we're looking to, Craftsbury would be building, I'm just going to turn the poles on so you can see. Well, I'm going to do 2 things. Let me turn the service points on. All right, so what this shows you is the everything in green are folks that have less than 4.1. Everything in yellow are people that have at least 4.1, but don't have 25.3. So a lot of them might be 7 megabytes per second down, 1 megabyte per second up, or, you know, it might be 10/2. Usually it's in the 1 up range. The blue is wireless. It's usually wireless 25.3. The red is fiber. So these are, this is existing fiber. And so what this project in Craftsbury would do is it would build off of the existing fiber line, and then it would come down to this area. And that is what's giving the opportunity to Wolcott to be able to build into this area, which while we're doing all of this backbone work. So by backbone work, we'll be building the Craftsbury OLT, and we'll be building the spurs off of our existing fiber. And we've come to find out that the fiber we inherited, a lot of the splicing hasn't been done, and there's an investment. So we're still building. We're just, it's sort of a repair along this side, but it's still building. So we provide this opportunity. So this is the area that's under discussion. Every opportunity is based on a formula. So if there are more than 1 priority address per mile, then that area, if it's connected to the backbone or connected to a spur that's connected to the backbone in this case, is eligible. I think technically we might actually be able to make this little spur right here eligible as well. I hadn't really noticed that before. So the poles, these are the pole lines. And so this, you can see how the poles run and where the gaps are. So the big picture is build out the backbone, then we're doing the spurs. Once we're done doing the backbone plus any of the town ARPA contributions, at that point, we're turning to a set of objective criteria, and we have a lot of the criteria laid out, but we're working on the weighting system, and there's a lot of work that's going to happen late this winter, like the February-March timeframe. Right now, we're kind of we're in construction, and it's our first solid big construction season. So there's a lot of work there. So when we get to the objective criteria, that's the point at which those criteria will then decide where do we go next, right? So we might, one of the main objective criteria is going to be outside grant funding, like a reconnect thing or something like that. The other objective criteria will be based on, number of unserved, the density of and number of unserved, the number of priority addresses, the proximity to existing fiber that we can extend out from. So those are just some of the types of criteria that will get involved. We also have a site called get.nekkbroadband.org, which is basically people can sign up and say, I'm interested in signing up for service. And that's going to be another one of the objective criteria, right? Where we have more interest that's been generated by grassroots or the town, that's going to score points for getting there. So the point is that we're not the old NEK broadband plan way back in the beginning was, here's winter towns and here are loser towns, and Wolcott was one of the loser towns. And the new plan puts the infrastructure across the entire district so that everybody has the opportunity to sorry, I'm at a hospital. So that everybody has the opportunity you know, to build off of the network. Anyway, any questions that I can answer?
I'm curious on in this case, we would be coming off of a spur that comes off of the Craftsbury build out. And they have not yet committed ARPA funds to it, or have they?
No, they have not yet finished their process going through, you know, they have a process in place of how they're doing it. So they have not finished going through it. I mean, I would recommend, if you're interested in moving forward with this, I would recommend that you know, move to approve the X amount. I can't remember the number right at the moment.
Yeah.
$52,917.
Right.
Contingent on the Craftsbury approval of a project that reaches the Wolcott town line. And then, you know, if Craftsbury approves it, then you've approved it in enough time to get the match. The September 15th deadline was established by the VCBB back in January or February when they issued the RFP. So if you go to, you know, the VCBB's website where the RFP is posted, you can see that section. And basically, I clarified with them that we could have the full September 15th timeframe, which means that as long as the town has voted to approve those ARPA funds by that time, then we'll be able to get those matching funds from the VCBB. So that's where the September 15th deadline comes from, is that RFP that was issued back in January or February or whenever it was.
So is Craftsbury also under the September 15th deadline?
Yeah, nope, they all are.
Okay.
I mean, Craftsbury is. And, you know, there's an interesting, it's in the public record now. Yeah, there's an interesting situation in Craftsbury because Craftsbury also owns some fiber and they don't really want to own some fiber. So, you know, we're looking at purchasing that fiber from them, which, you know, could also be, it's not intended to offset ARPA, but, you know, there's kind of a wash there in some ways. And so, I think it's, I think it's pretty, anyway, I think it's fairly likely that it's going to happen, but, you know, you never know. So I would make the vote contingent, or if you have another meeting before the 15th, that's fine, but.
Okay, and so the allocation, when you make an ARPA allocation like this, that is a commitment of those designated funds to this specific purpose. And the contingency, I mean, the only way that those funds can come back to the town is if Craftsbury, you know, fails to build out the spur. Is that right?
That's correct. Yep.
I had a different question. It just got me thinking. So you say by doing this project, the top of Town Hill and East Hill will speed it up for 4-year speed up. So where does that leave the rest of the town? I always heard it was like gonna be like 5 years or so.
Yeah, to be clear, it's an up to, right? It's up to it's up to a savings of 4 years. So we're gonna do objective criteria, like I said, and so we'll go in and look at the items I said. Is there another grant option that we can leverage in order to get the area done? How many, what's the density? And we can take, I'll just put this up again. What's the density of what needs to be served, right? And how deeply have we gone in? So, in Wolcott, it's hard to tell without doing a lot of demographics, which is really part of the winter work and things like that. But you've got this big section of green, which means that they don't have anything at all, right? Like that is those kinds of areas. And we can probably get to that by extending down off of this fiber leg, because we're gonna have access to some of that fiber. And so hopefully that's the goal. And if that does turn out to be the case, then we could extend down and, take care of this big section of people that really don't have anything at all. So that's an example of an area that would be made a priority with objective criteria. Whereas like in Greensboro, there's not very, there's a little tiny clump there, but that's probably, who knows what that is. But so that's one example. And then there are other examples where something, might depend on whether or not there's a competing grant in the area as well as terms of timing. So I think it's going to really depend. Yeah. So this is good. So what I just put on these red blocks and these blue blocks, these are RDOF award winners. And so this area doesn't have any, there's nothing that's coming to this area. So that's a benefit, that's a positive thing that could happen. So I just can't say, right? Like that's the whole idea, is that when you have a district that's this large, it didn't feel fair to sort of out of the gate just sort of create these winners and losers. We have $165 to $185 million project to build, and we're going to get about $105 million in grant funding. And so that puts us about $80 million short, right? And so in order to make up that $80 million, we'll do things like apply for other grants. Sorry, I'm not used to talking with masks anymore. Because I work from home. So the difference has to be made up with municipal revenue bonds. So the municipal revenue bonds count on being able to basically what the municipal revenue bond market says is you have to be able to show us that you're going to be able to get 5 customers per mile. Well, that's not the easiest thing to do in the Northeast Kingdom when the average people per mile is like 9, premises per mile is like 9. And so that means that the areas that we go after in order to develop the additional funding, those areas need to be, they need to support the business plan. So anyway, my point is that the savings in time is up to 4 years, and basically these are the sections that'll get built while we're building the backbone for the network. Does that help?
No, sorry. All that you needed to say was, so this is up to 4 years. So I was just wondering what it meant for the rest of Wolcott. Is that 10 years? 8 years?
No. Okay, so the whole project in general, while our goal is 5 years, it's probable that the whole project in general is going to take around 7 years. Like, I don't think it's realistic to build that many miles. That would be many times what is normal for like the other, EC Fiber is the only other CUD, and they've done like 300 miles a year. So, but, we've hired a contractor to do more miles per month, and we're working really hard to be able to run more miles per month. But the bottom line is the overall project should take about 7 years. And it's possible that it takes more years, but the benefit on this piece is that, and the rest of it, it could be, it could be in 2 years, it could be in 3 years, it could be in 4 years, it could be in 5 years, it could be in 6 years. Like, that's not something I can tell you at this point in time. But it's not going to be,
A lot of people are, citizens are asking me all the time, when's it coming, how long? I just wanted to kind of be able to have an answer from them. And
I know.
Is 7 years from today or 7 years from when you created your cut,
Right. I would say that it is going to take about 5 to 7 years of construction, and construction basically started in August.
Okay, so basically from now, okay. It's not that I'm just trying to get answers when people are always asking.
Yeah, no, I I can really appreciate that. So it's we'll always be making our plans 2 years ahead, because the make ready, like, so if you decide to invest this fund, then the first thing that happens is I put in a request to the make ready team, and they start prepping the make ready. So they go and identify all the poles, and then they're going to submit applications to the utility, and then the utility is going to start making those poles ready. We don't have pole numbers in the Hardwick Electric area, but we're working with them to make it happen. So the first thing that would happen is the make ready would go into play. And then, the important thing to understand in terms of timing, like when would this section get built, is a lot of that is dependent on when that make ready gets done, right? If that make ready gets done in, if that make ready is done and there are no gaps that we have to fill or things that we have to figure out, then that makes it eligible to get constructed. So it's all about, like, right now we're building in Waterford, and we've got a lot of make ready done, but I also have 3 big gaps that have problems where, that have to get solved. So that's why it's difficult to project, because if there's a place that we can go build because there are no obstacles in the way, then we're going to go build there. Like, that's the idea of having 12 crews working at the same time, is the ability to do that. But
make a comment.
for us, we're not coming to you asking for the money. We're just letting you know that you have this opportunity to get this piece done in a known time frame that happens to have a really high density of priority. I'm sorry, I guess I didn't point that out, but these little gray circles that are behind the yellow circles, those are the priority addresses. So everyone that has a gray circle is on the state's list of priority addresses.
This is Bruce. Can I make a comment?
Yeah.
To Linda's question, I think people are asking, when would we get good internet access?
You're hard to
Yeah.
hear. Can you get closer to your mic or something? Or I'll turn mine
I'll
on.
try. Is this any better?
Oh, that's much better. Thank you.
So it seems like the people's questions are mostly, when do we get good internet access? And what we've been talking about here is fiber to the home, which is great, and it'll be great for years. But there's several other ways that people will get good internet access. The state has funded, as I understand it, or will fund up to 50 macro towers. And they're talking about one in Wolcott that would give Wolcott good coverage from whoever signed up, AT&T, Verizon, whoever. So Wolcott will get covered long before that 4, 5, 7 years, whatever. Small cells, but probably be covered with wireless long before the fiber gets in, is my guess. That's my opinion.
Right, so I think what Bruce is saying is that the extending the fiber to this location enables the cell tower, which would enable quicker service through wireless service. Is that what you're saying, Bruce?
That's correct. But there's also, the big players are also thinking about a tower for Wolcott, a macro tower. That's all.
Do you have any questions? Anyone else have any questions?
What would happen if you can't get the 4 to 5 people per mile
Thank you.
to purchase onto this optic fiber line? What would happen?
If we can't get people to become customers?
Correct.
Well, there are. So if we have trouble with our take rates, then the biggest impact that that's going to have is the inability to raise additional money through revenue bond financing that would enable us to get to the unserved areas in wherever we haven't built with grant funding, right? So the grant funding is going to cover 60% of the unserved areas. And really, realistically, the grant funding is going to cover more than that because we're focused on these rural areas that nobody will go to with the grant funds. And the some of those ending areas are, are denser areas that have little sections on the end. They're harder to get to. So ultimately, I think that the impact is that there's a portion of the addresses that are going to be harder to get built to if that happens. I mean, it is going to be an important piece that we, try and develop grassroots with our board members and, cultivating stuff in the town. And there are a lot of people that are, if they can get adequate cell service, will only take cell service because that's enough. They just need it for email or whatever. And there are other people who want to have fiber connections so they can have, good video or gaming or work or whatever they're doing. So there'll be a wide swath. Our take rates in our business model are set at around 42%. And that is based on a 15% take rate if there's cable and a 45% take rate if there isn't cable or a 25/3, 25 down, 3 up option. So wireless areas are set at a lower rate, around 30% of the premises taking the service. Does that answer your question? I can't see facial expressions from here, so I can't.
Guess it really doesn't, because I see it depends on, you've got to get the customers, and we don't know if there's going to be the customers.
I'm not sure what depends on needing to get the customers. I mean,
So
Yeah.
She said that in their business plan, they didn't have 100% customers.
Right.
Yeah.
I understand that if they don't get the 4 to 5 customers per mile.
Chris, I just had a little crash here. Just stand by a sec.
That's going to stop them from getting the revenue.
Yeah, so we don't need to get 4 to 5.
Right.
So the grant funds are going to be focused on the areas where we don't expect to get 4 to 5 people per mile, right? Like the grant funds are going to be where we can't get where revenue bonds aren't going to be successful. We're going to be going after the revenue bond market at the same time that we're building with grant funds, right? We're not actually, we're not like, oh, we'll build out all of the grant funds and then we'll build revenue bonds. No, those two things are going to happen at the same time. And so the best areas for the revenue bonds that are going to, be the most successful in raising those bond financing and enabling the build out, those are going to happen in parallel to the areas that are getting built with the grant funds. I mean, that's what I mean by, we have to focus on what works for the business plan when we're using the objective criteria. So that'll either be because we have some grant funding that can support the particular location, or because it's a location that has enough unserved and enough density that it makes sense to go in there and do a revenue bond project for that area.
Yeah, I think the business plan anticipates that you could fall below. That's a good question.
Yeah, good question. I was thinking of that myself. I was beginning to wonder, to be areas that would never be served.
I will say, I really believe strongly, and we've done a lot. I believe strongly that we will have the ability to get to we've committed, that's part of the condition of the grant funds, right? We've committed to a universal service plan to getting to every area. And I'm working closely with other federal funding sources, tracking other options down for the kingdom and the Wolcott area to keep increasing the options. So 104 million will build out a lot. And I strongly believe that we will have the ability to get the rest of it built out. We also have like the municipal bond company that NEK Fiber used, which is the communications union district that's, been in existence for a while, that this was modeled after. We've been working closely with them. They wrote a letter saying, talking about the strength of the business plan and why they think that we'll be successful in the bond market, and why they think that we'll actually be able to enter the bond market sooner than NEK Fiber would have been able to because of the grant support. They see the grant support as being the equivalent of equity. So even though NEK Fiber didn't have equity when they went after municipal bond funding, we'll actually be putting in, the sort of equity into the project because of the grant funds that are supporting those surrounding areas. So, the confidence doesn't come just from our internal belief, right? It comes from experts that have evaluated the plans and looked at the area and looked at the numbers and, determined what they think is possible. So.
Great. Thank you. Bear with us just a second.
Sure.
Is that all right?
Yeah. Do we do have 15? I'm going to close it. This conversation now.
Well, we might as well just take it up now and vote and see how everyone feels about. So I'm going to put on the table the idea of our using ARPA funds in the amount of $52,917, where we'll receive matching funds for this for the Town Hill, East Hill, and everything is contingent on the Craftsberry bringing their spur in. If that doesn't happen and Craftsberry doesn't approve it, and we will not expend any ARPA funds on this, so wondering how everyone feels about that.
So for the $53,000, how many homes are
45, she
45,
said.
yeah,
And there was 20 some that were high priority.
14.
14?
Oh,
14 that are high priority. And, but they are, as you can see on the map, they're not served. Those 14 high priorities.
And that's the area that I can constantly am getting phone calls from people working at home also. Needing something stronger.
Do you guys mind if I make a little kind of, I guess, my interpretation to you guys? Because I feel like you guys are not quite getting the big picture here. So she's just talking about building a few miles into the town, which ultimately everything needs to get built. And by doing this now, that part of town can get built sooner just because of the coincidental possibility of coming off this spur. Other parts of Wolcott are going to get built from Lamoille or somewhere else. But this particular neighborhood has an opportunity here, and that's the request for the money, is to get that.
But is it worth that kind of money for that number of homes?
I mean, that's only about 1,000 per home. And I don't, Krista, do you have a sense of what the average cost of getting lines to serve homes is? How many dollars per home is typical?
Yeah, so the formula that was used, because this was created back in January when that RFP came out, the formula that was used was $35,000 per mile to build the fiber. That number is now more like 45,000, and all of that delta will be covered by NEK broadband. So it's about $45,000 a mile. And then each home costs us, we pay to our contractor $1,500 to do the drop from the fiber to the customer's home. And the customer doesn't pay anything if they're within 400 feet of their distribution fiber line. And it's, 400 aerial feet. If they have buried their electric lines, then and their phone lines and there's no poles, then they have to pay for the underground. And we have contractors lined up, but they work directly with the contractors. We want to be clear that we're not taking anything out of that.
Krista, can I hold you up for a sec? I think what Kurt's trying to get at is this a good value to do this now versus another time?
Yeah, no, this is really a fraction of the overall cost. So yeah, it's a good value.
Well, it's because it's a match. This match opportunity exists now. Otherwise, I mean, I envision at some point Wolcott would pay something for this. We can't expect it to be totally free.
Well, no, actually. So the Communications Union District can't accept any money from the town except for ARPA money. So we're forbidden by statute from any taxing authority, any forgetting all the words, any appropriations that come from the town. So all of the towns are completely insulated from the financials of the Communications Union District. And so we're going to be building out to all of these areas based on our grant funding and our municipal bond, revenue bond funding, right? It's not It's not the kind of revenue bond, it's not the kind of bond funding that you do. It's the kind, it's based on our revenue. So it goes into a bank account that the bondholders hold, they get paid, and then we get paid the rest, and then, you know, we pay our bills. So that's kind of how they get guaranteed that they're going to get their money. So what you're buying here is not, what you're buying here is time, right? What you're buying here is for those 45 homes, with, I forgot the number of priority addresses, with 14 priority addresses, to be able to get connected to school or work or telehealth or whatever it is that they do faster and sooner. It guarantees your place in line. That's the best way I can put it. It guarantees your place in line. We're going to build the backbone. There's 7 towns that have, well, 8, because yesterday, there's 8 towns now. So there's 8 towns that have said yes, and there are 4 or 5 more towns that are voting. So I've got Craftsbury and Glover have yet to vote, and Westmore and Holland are the 4 other towns that have proposals in front of them. And then there are 8 towns that have already voted yes. So anyway, it's a guaranteed place in line, basically.
Do you guys mind if I ask one more question? Krista, so with this, this is, my name's Dolan. I'm just sort of like the tech help for the select board. But I'm just wondering, so would all of these addresses eventually be built if this money wasn't spent, but it would just come at whatever time became economically feasible by the CUD?
Yep, that's correct.
Okay.
It's going to happen anyway.
Right.
Is the point, but it's, so as Mr. said, what you're buying here is speeding up the process, getting fiber into Wolcott.
Yeah.
And then what Bruce is talking about is that it also opens some opportunity to wirelessly extend that, which is a different project altogether, but it doesn't open up that opportunity. My thought is that, you know, this is exactly what ARPA funds are designed for. You know, better communication, broader communication, and it speeds up the process into what we know is a very sensitive area. You know, Linda gets calls on, I get calls on. There are quite a number of people who try to work from home in that area unsuccessfully. So the level of frustration. So I think the question here is a motion to allocate these funds contingent on Craftsbury.
Are you making the motion or? Correct.
I'm just trying to
Oh, yeah.
narrow it down.
Articulate it, yeah.
And I'm personally, I'm happy to make that motion, yes.
I'll second that motion.
Do you make the motion first
Sure.
so that we have it in writing?
I can read what I
Official,
had.
okay?
Motion to use ARPA funds in the amount of $52,917 and receive matching funds for Town Hill and East Hill fiber contingent upon Craftsbury bringing the spur down to Wolcott.
Could you add Manley Road to that?
Yes.
Well, of course, you know how to spell.
So we have a first and we have a second. Any further discussion or questions?
No.
If not, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, say no. So carried.
Great. So for next steps, I will put together the contract so that you can review it. It's a contract that's been reviewed by 5 of the towns. I think 3 of them put attorneys on it, and we made some minor modifications to accommodate, requests. So I will prepare that. That will probably happen toward the end of next week. And I think at that point in time, we'll have an answer from Craftsberry, and then that contract will get sent over. And from a timing perspective, we're flexible in terms of when you want to, pay the ARPA funds over. Like some have already paid in advance because they were their ARPA funds and they just were trying to push things out the door. And some want to wait a little longer. So, we have some flexibility on that. So I will put that together, and thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Hey, are we okay with the 15th at this point in time?
Yes,
Okay.
this is all you need for the 15th, and I will be putting together a proposal. Well, it's a grant amendment request because we've already received 2 grants under this RFP. So it's a grant amendment request for these funds plus 2 other towns and any of the other 4 towns that apply. The other 5 towns we've already done the amendment request, but this has solidified the VCBB match and the NEK broadband match for sure.
Very good. Okay. Well,
Thank you.
thank you very much.
Super.
Appreciate
Thanks
your
very
time.
much. Take care. Yeah. Bye-bye.
Thanks, everybody. This is great.
Yeah. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks for your help.
I apologize for it. It was my misunderstanding that yours, and I just feel bad about saying it that way. So my apologies. I just saw some puzzled looks.
Oh, yeah, no, it's good.
Okay, I actually realized it was me that was misunderstanding.
It's a complicated,
Yeah.
it's a big and complicated thing.
So, yeah, I'm just sorry.
Okay, let's move back to comments from the community and correspondence. Bruce, did you have anything to say, or only public?
No, thanks. It's just, I guess I'd just say that I appreciate the board welcoming this opportunity and the support. And I do think there'll be alternatives. Once we get this fiber to Wolcott, then it really opens up opportunities for covering Wolcott until we get fiber to every house, including the majors that might provide internet access, mobile internet access from a tower. So anyway, thank you very much.
Oh, you're welcome. You're welcome to stay on. So I only have 2 things of correspondence here on the table. One is just reminding you that the LTC Town Fair is October 6th. It's a Thursday in Killington. And also announcing the 2023 municipal planning grants are available. It was sent out to usually the planning commission looks at it. They have received notice too that these grants are available.
I don't think it was not on their agenda.
No, it wasn't. I went and looked. So I'll quickly read it in case you come up with some ideas that you might think that could be recommended to them. The deadline is December 1st, but it just says here, the state's flexible municipal planning grants are ready to support projects for long-term recovery, and now is the time to begin thinking about projects. More than 30 years, municipal planning grants have helped communities like yours implement town plan recommendations. We were looking at that energy. I don't know where that went. And jumpstart initiatives like zoning updates to welcome new homes, plans for state designated areas of economic recovery strategies. Individual town can apply up to 26,400. So we'll have to see what, some of our plan initiatives or goals were too. So it's worthy of, think about it, worthy of further discussion if you come up with anything. All right, let's move on to the project managers.
Excuse me,
report.
could I just comment on that past
Yeah.
idea? I would definitely like to help pursue a municipal grant for planning. I really think we need to do some planning in Wolcott, and talked to Sept today. I think he likes the idea, so I'm perfectly willing to work with anyone to help put that grant application together as we move forward.
And what was, what we're looking for as the grant project?
That's a good question, but I think there's several things going on in Wolcott that could use some planning in terms of integrating different efforts. But we could use some planning. And I'm not sure of the specific subject.
Okay, so we should have a further discussion about that, all right?
Sure.
Okay, great. Thanks, Bruce. So as far as the project management report, fairly short one this time. One is Champlain Oil is willing to sell the plot of land that they have over here next to the town land. It's a 0.63 acre, I think. But it does abut town land. It was at one time a gas station. The tanks have been removed. And the environmental agencies kind of put in in their report a need for the soil to be tested on an annual basis. My sense is that hasn't happened. So as a first step in investigating whether this makes sense to the town of Wolcott, we can order a Brownfield phase 1 study. And this comes from the Planning Commission. It does require the Champlain Oil sign off allowing us to do it. It would be no cost to the town or Champlain Oil, as far as I understand. And it's a non-invasive test. I sent the paperwork to Champlain Oil just to see if they agree, and they readily agreed. Yeah, go for it.
Oh, good.
Because they want to sell it. So that's just kind of an update of where we stand with that piece of land. With the longer term planning, there's been some discussion about that land being used either for a commuter parking area or electric charging station area, but it's town land right in the village, and there's potential value to the town. It's not a big piece of property.
So the town owns 90 feet from the brook, but we don't own the other part, even though we're all sharing it. And it seems worthy of at least investigating, because who knows what, down the road for parking in the village. Just think of Morrisville, where they're developing stuff in their parking areas. That's all I'm thinking about is the future.
Can I have a comment?
Yeah.
This is Bruce. Another really good idea. I think it's a beautiful spot, great opportunity. Just thank you especially for putting that together.
Yeah.
That's all.
Thanks for tearing down the building.
Give Jim some credit also.
Okay, next one, Manoj. This is actually.
So
we're trying-
are you going to fill out the application for phase one?
Yes,
Okay.
and they're signing them.
Okay, great.
So this is the outdoor line, and you can't seem to get the job completed up there. Do we need to do this ourselves?
I don't know. I personally went down and talked with the second in command last week and told them that this project hasn't been completed since February. You know, it's a liability. And he said, well, he needs some kind of trench digger or something. If they bring in an excavator, it would wreck all our lawns. And so, but they don't have one, and they're trying to get in touch with someone who has one to lease it, because they have another project in the same boat. And that was last week that I went down.
Yeah.
I had to call them back because they didn't call me. And then he told me this, but I haven't heard from him again since.
Yeah, our experience has really been bad on this one. I mean, they simply don't return the call.
Doesn't sound like you're being terribly responsive.
And if you
Do you
look
have
at
any
it,
suggestion, Ellen?
Is there an electrician who can have a look at it and see what it would take? Maybe any electrician get a quote, maybe?
The
yeah,
problem is the trench. We need a trench dug.
Which,
I don't know what the state laws are. It has to be in conduit or what, I'm not sure.
I know mine is underground from the pole to my house and it's only far in conduit.
yeah. I mean, I
I
don't know what
don't
the
know the
rules
law.
are either. I mean, I assume that Manoj did. But I think it's a good point, Alan, is that it is an electrical connection. And, but it goes down into the well out here, and that's where I don't, I don't know what's going on down there.
I was, they ran it to the wall, then put it to the box. The electrician would have to run it back, once it's above the ground, back, so probably through a conduit.
Yeah.
Back to where it kept back to anyways,
Yeah,
so you're gonna have to probably, if anything, probably have to have a connection somewhere above the ground there. Either go down the conduit out of there, or you're gonna have to pull a new line all the way back through, or run that one through a conduit.
yeah,
So they're gonna have to disconnect it either way, probably.
yeah.
And then you need a ground post.
Which is all an electrician running the conduit the right size with the right size wire.
Yeah, but I mean, it still needs a ground post in case of,
Okay, so can we just figure out, do we want to continue waiting for Manoj, or should we? Do you have suggestions of someone else we can reach out to? That could do it, because we have to have a certified electrician, because it's a public building.
is there any contractors around that have a trenching tool?
You know, what does it look like? I don't even know what it is.
Basically, it looks like a big chainsaw. So it's an iron with these little scoop buckets that just goes right along and digs a trench.
Yeah, I mean, my thought is we should just stay on Manoj to finish the job
Now, have they been paid?
that they've been paid for, yes.
For what they've done.
And they acknowledge this, in their invoice, they acknowledge that it's an undone project.
But they still invoice you anyway.
So they came in February and this couldn't fix it because there's snow. They thought the line was broken somewhere. And they ran a new electric line, but they laid it on the ground. All around the building. And I mean, the mowing guy could run over it.
Yeah, or a weed whacker. No, it's not a good thing.
I told them that.
Experience.
Or a dog going punch buttons?
No, you could always we did get a quote, we could say, hey, Manoj, you got an electrician that can do the job if you can. You can pay him.
All right. I guess let's just look at it both ways and see, you know, continue to push the option and then see who else we can get to do this. Possibly. So a handyman, we desperately need a handyman. And, you know, at the planning commission meeting last night, there was further discussion about compost toileting for the rail trail and getting, they felt that there was an excellent grant opportunity. But I was just doing their Zoom meeting from, but I had to interject and said, you know, who's going to?
And there's no land.
Yeah.
There is absolutely no land. I am not putting a compost toilet next to the rail trail.
Yeah.
Yes.
So I think we have to talk to the planning, because they're like, that's one of the places they're talking.
No, I'm not. There's no room.
Yeah.
And then they talked about by the garage.
Yeah.
I had
That's leased
responded,
land.
but that's lease land. I suggested the ball field, but they said it's in the 100-year floodplain. There is no land here for a composting toilet.
And my concern on top of that is these toilets need maintenance and weekly maintenance. And we don't have anybody that's going to do that. And the town's going to end up responsible for that piece. And, you know, I hate to be having this conversation after they spent $35,000 on composting toilet. Anyway, getting back to the handyman, the need for a handyman, that's just one of the many, many needs. So in investigating this position, it traditionally has been a very part-time position, very ad hoc. We're very fortunate to have Bernard, who's just down the road here, and he's kind of on call, you know, whenever, and come and do things. I don't think we can replicate that. So one of the other approaches might be to have set hours for a handyman. You know, maybe one day a week, and all of the projects, you know, kind of pile up and they do that, or 2 days a week, maybe plus some emergency ad hoc. I think that is much more saleable in terms of recruiting somebody than a pure ad hoc.
Deb had a question.
I was speaking with Renee, the woman who is living in the former B&B, and Nathan, her son-in-law, is the one who is painting the town garage. And I noted that her husband had voluntarily, you know, cut a limb in the park for us. And so I asked her if her husband would be interested in being the handyman, and that we should, you know, talk to her about that. And so, yeah, he may be interested. And she noted that, you know, they live so close that, you know, he could even come by, you know, to check on things in the middle of the night or whatever might be needed.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, that's going to, that's a good possibility. I mean, the ideal thing is to have an ad hoc. And so that might fit. What I'm leading this toward is if we cannot find an ad hoc, and we need to have a little more teeth into it, it's going to have a budget. You know, like, you can say that, yeah, it's 8 hours a week. This is compensation for 8 hours a week or something of that nature. So I just want to get your opinion on that approach.
I'm just trying to think if we have 8 hours worth of work, depending on the experience the person holds. There's still, we still need to deal with plowing and shoveling.
Mm-hmm.
And while we're on the subject, I spoke with Bernard this weekend about the salt for the filter in the town hall. And he told me, what to do. So I went down to the town, in the basement of town hall yesterday. And the container is completely empty of salt. So I went and bought 740 bags of salt that are in the entranceway, but I cannot carry them to the basement. I need some help to do that. But that needs to be filled regularly. That's a job that needs to be done.
It's like that in the fire extinguishers, lighting and so forth. But in the short term, you gotta get those bags out in there.
Right.
Are we gonna have enough time to do it tonight? It shouldn't take very long.
Ballet's in there till 8:15.
I don't see us getting done till 8:30, so.
And, well, and in the future, I have to leave at 8:15. Yeah, we could try tonight.
I can help.
Mhm.
I mean, at least if we could get 2 or 3 bags down there and get it into the.
You need 6 to fill it up, and I bought an extra one. He said it depends on how much water is used and how fast it goes. I was actually thinking of taking that slide on the playground over there and put it in the stairs.
It's the bottom that blows up.
You can catch it down there.
Good luck.
Are you gonna, speak, what is this gentleman's name? Rick.
Yeah, I'm gonna talk to them.
If he's not, can we start advertising something of some sort?
At least for the plowing. Shop.
Yeah, I don't think I can hold anything like that.
They do have nice little handles on the bags.
I used to have a wire saw.
All right, so for the, this is from the litter committee, kind of an exciting opportunity that Michelle has put together, which is the HelpSee Textile Recycle Center. And so this gives us an opportunity, you can probably see these things here.
Yeah.
This gives us an opportunity to put up at the transfer station a clothing recycle bin, both shoes and clothing. And it's free to the customer, and it makes money for the town. Not a lot, I'll say.
Sounds good. Free is good and
Yeah,
a little bit of money coming
A little
in.
bit of money. It sounds like a really excellent service. Lamoille County Waste District had just picked up on them as well. And independent of our activity, I think Michelle got it first. So we requested 2 bins to be put up there. We'll put them kind of where Sylvia parks his car right now. So I think it's an ideal spot for it. And I think it's going to be great for the community. And also it might be really appealing to the greater area. It might bring more business to the transfer station.
Well, it shows that we're making an effort to recycle. It's hard to find an outlet to fix that.
Very good.
Well, solid waste does and so. But I don't know if I don't think their reuse program is active now,
No, it isn't.
which is a real shame because that means more stuff's going right in the hopper.
Yeah, and so what HelpSee does is they're actually a clothing company. And they take all of this material, recreate clothes out. They have a shop in New York and other places. You buy old Vermont textile, your old stuff.
Good old.
So you see somebody in New York and say, hey, part of this.
Oh, when mentioning the transfer station, I was up there weekend before last. There was a fellow scrounging scrap metal, copper wire out of it. And I mentioned it to Silvio. He said, look, oh, they're doing it all the time. Well, they're not supposed to.
Yeah.
And it's a liability issue.
Yeah, if someone's in there, yes,
They
yes.
shouldn't be go over the chain.
Well, the signs right there, and they're big and they're nice big letters. And I almost asked the fellow if English was his first language and can he read? But he was in a real hurry to grab that copper wire. Obviously, he had to go down in there to get it. Well, we're not supposed to have anybody in those containers. And it's not like I'm telling tales on Silvio, but I guess it's been going on for a while. It used to happen when I ran the place, and I very discouraged that. And for liability reasons, it's just a, yeah.
Yeah, well, Sylvian has, the DOC guys have kind of come back into service.
Yeah, I noticed. Yeah.
And I think that's a perfect job for the DOC. That people stay out of there.
Yeah, that the DOC guys can accidentally knock the person in the container on a one-way trip. We don't encourage that either.
Yeah, but you're right. So the chain fell down, a couple of the chains broke. So those were replaced last week.
And that happens and they'll back up with their truck too close and
Where they try to throw a container over the top of it, or a couch into the bulk and bounces right off the chain.
yeah, that's not good for it.
All right, speaking of winter, and part of my thinking is that the ideal ambient would also plow. You could use the town's one-ton truck to do that. The truck has a plow, but it doesn't have a sander. And yeah, I think if you remember from past couple of winters, sanding has always been a problem here.
Yeah.
It's very slippery. So a request has come out from the road crew to purchase one-ton sand truck, which is another approximately $10,000.
We start looking into researching prices
Yeah, I mean, yeah.
and finding out if they can get it before next year.
Yeah.
I think that's the key thing. It's a matter of how soon they can get the product is more important than the price.
Yeah. Apparently, gravel hardwood has safer. One there.
Are they new or?
Yeah, the snow plows and.
Oh, I didn't realize this.
Yeah, they sell.
Whatever.
But I don't know how this impacts.
What budget? Yeah, it would normally come out of the equipment fund, and I have no idea where that stands with all our leases.
I need to research that more.
Mm.
Table it. And
Obviously, it's something you're gonna need for before snow flies.
yeah. Just an FYI that News and Citizen municipal postings, the cost has really gone up to the point where it costs more than what the customer is paying.
For zoning permit fees for subdivisions, yeah.
Now, the one thing I noticed in talking to Tom today, he looked up the statute, and we've been running the ads 2 times, and it doesn't appear we need to. So I think that's the first thing we can do.
Got it back.
And then Tom is going to try to put together a proposal what he thinks we should charge. So we're not losing them. So that's an FYI as well.
Yeah, well, that's good.
And that's it for me.
Okay, let's move on to the forest committees, to forest, town forest stewardship committee appointment. We have a resignation from our charter. People that were put on the committee. Elliot Waring has resigned. And Roger LaChance would like to fill that position. I said it was fine, it'd just be a formality, I would need to pass it by the board because we have the initial members here. So it's just a formality. I'm also gonna be finding out, I need to speak with Gordon, to find out if there's other people that are just not coming to our meetings. Is there someone else that would like to be on this? But for tonight, I just need a motion to replace Roger LaChance on the stewardess committee for the position that Elliot Waring held.
I'll make that motion.
And
I'll second it.
do we have any further discussion on that? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried. Thank you. I'm on board now. Memorial Fiber Net appointment.
All right, so as you may or may not know, Bruce was representing the Wolcott Fiber NEK as our rep. He's now moved to NEK as our left an opening with Wolcott Fiber NEK. So an individual has come forward named Andrew Ross. He lives on Town Hill Road. He is highly experienced telecom software engineer. Just a perfect fit.
Yes.
And so he expressed interest in joining the group. Val, who runs the Wolcott FiberNet, was excited to have him, and he's actually attending his first meeting tonight because it's the same time as this meeting. So, yeah, I think we should make a motion to accept Andrew Ross.
I'll make that motion to accept Andrew Ross for the fiber net board.
You have a second? Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, so carried.
So now,
Okay. Gulf Road, just want to give you an update. Remember a few weeks ago, we are gonna look into the speed study and all that. Tell you what I found out. I reached out to the Lamoille County Planning Commission and Rob helped me find 3 engineers who might be interested in doing a speed study. So I did reach out to them. One wasn't really interested. The other said it would cost us $1,500 to $2,000. to do a speed study. I then went and looked at the Gulf Road. I wrote it up and down. And so presently, it's posted at 25 miles an hour up through the curves to the landfill, and then it changes to 35. I also spoke to Todd Eaton from Local Roads to get his take on it and information on how going on it. He was pretty strong in saying that we should be careful, because when you do a speed study, it's based on the 85% of cars travel their speed. And that's where you set your speed. And we might find out that the cars are going faster
Yeah.
in that area. So I reached out to Du Bois and King, VHB and RSG, and I spent a lot of time with Rob Moore too on that. Now Rob Moore can do a study, not a study, he can just put up the speed things. Maybe, but in terms of having an engineer come, I really don't think it's worth the money
No,
that we have.
maybe we should go with the speed monitors. With Rob said.
Well, it's just, he would lie and hang out.
Yeah, I know.
And we know, what it was. There's a whole form, a traffic engineering report for speed limits that you have to fill out. If you were to change the speed or to determine that, but I don't see how much lower we can go.
If you start getting below 20, 25 people, it's literally flipping.
Well, you could put in the speed bumps like they did up in Ireland.
Oh, don't do that. Those things on West Church Street, almost cut it out and take a ladder and get over.
I swear they're gonna be 18-inch.
It almost worse than my dentures.
When I thought about it today, they are too high.
They are excessive.
They are.
I
And
went to the dentist.
the pastor, the parsonage is right there, United Church. And my sister-in-law, Mary, lives right on that street. And her husband Earl is waxing poetic about those speed bumps. And they put cones on the side of the street, on the sidewalk to get around. I don't know about Earl, and we didn't certify that we accidentally knocked over the cone. Because I was going slower. I was definitely going slow enough, but I didn't feel like damaging my vehicle.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
it's really, I mean, they sit up about that high.
I know, I've seen.
Oh, yeah.
My thought is that, the number of complaints on Gulf Road is very low.
Yeah.
We haven't had one in years that I'm aware of. The cost of the taxpayer is, it's expensive. And the condition and the geography and the length of the road, just, I don't know that it warrants it. It's 35, and you're right. If you go, and actually the state guidelines will point this out. If you go beyond a reasonable,
People aren't going to pay attention.
but they'll ignore it. They're going to go. Most people go at what they feel like is a safe speed.
Well, common sense needs to prevail in those curves. And I think the only. And if anybody's careless about driving on that road, it's going to be very expensive to get the car out of those deep ditches.
Yeah.
Which is their problem, not ours.
And the final piece in my mind is the accident history on that road is low, very, very low.
Yeah.
So, I mean.
Well, that's my report. Do you want to know on the heating oil?
Yeah. Is it, I should, this, now, Paul had written us asking how we're doing the speed project, and I feel like he should be responded to.
Now, he's the fellow that did a lot of property right next to the bridge.
And I'm happy to do this.
Yeah, you can tell them that we discussed it at the select board meeting. And
Heating oil, all I have for you in that is that you're right. It is a percentage of practice. And he had to look up what the percentage was. So I don't know. And we thought it was 3%.
I think so. That's what it always was.
And if so, I think that that's as good as we can expect right now.
That's the break, because it's below rec.
Yeah.
By so much. It doesn't mean that you've got a fixed rate. It's fluctuating, but it's below what the average person's paying.
All right.
Crude was below 80 a barrel.
Yeah.
Like we getting better.
Town office, I met with the town office employees, I think it was last week. We're having some cleaning issues. But anyway, we came up with the idea of we're going to close the office on September 23rd. And we are going to hoe out. We're going to clean up all the stuff that's hanging around that we don't need. Like I've asked the road to take the TV, which has never been used. You know, there's typewriters that are dead and all this stuff, and we're gonna organize, just spend a day organizing the office instead of keep throwing things in the.
I'll make room for the Civil War muskets. I've got one. I could use 2 or 3 more.
Anyway,
What's that?
Do you have them?
Oh, yes.
Really?
Came from the Daughters of the American Revolution. I was in junior high school. My dad paid $10 for it.
wow.
They sat up in the back of the second story of the memorial building where a huge window, lots of sun. So the gun stocks had dried out to the point they're almost as white as balsa wood. It took me years to hand rub linseed to bring that wood back. They were
Interesting.
parade pieces after the Civil War. Just trying to be helpful.
There is missions listers.
So we did submit a letter to the board to select a property that we thought we had collected last year. And lo and behold, it came out the same way. Last year, we did an errors and omission. This is on the Kapuska property on Jones Lake. And the square footage had to be changed, and so it dropped, you know, their assessment. And it's just beyond us, you know, how, you know, it just came out the same incorrect way this year. And so we're asking that the grand list be changed one more time for this property, and promise, we'll get it so that the computer is complete.
We need to take action on this.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's going to, you know, maybe
Yeah.
turn out the grand list, and so it is going to change the grand list. I don't even have the amount in front of me, but I mean, it's just one property, square footage on the garage, and so it's not a large change at all, but simply a correction, and one that obviously is important to the homeowners.
You need a motion?
Yes, Because we're changing the grand list and, when it's audited, they'll be looking for this so that aren't fooling around with tax.
Yeah, yeah.
Yep.
Well, I'll make that motion then.
A second.
I'll second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to, allow for the errors and corrections on the Capusta property on Jones Lane. All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Okay. Community barbecue. Looks like it'll be a nice night.
Hope so.
Those who want to help, start setting up at 10. We have help from, the Army National Guard. Is that who they are? Came by last week and offered to help us. And
That's
said
for,
they'd come back and
Right.
put these, here, these little pop-up tents and tables.
that's
This
for,
is the official start time.
Official start is 5.
Okay.
It's 5 to 7. That way it gives time for people. It starts getting dark and a little cool and people start winding down from 7:30.
you come early, you'll be first then.
So we have music with our karaoke machine. We have Steve Schnetz is gonna make his animal balloons, the garden. People are going to do plantings, you can come do plantings, the Girl Scouts are coming and doing outdoor games, ladder ball and cornhole and arts and crafts. Wolcott Ballet's coming to do a few little dance things, we have lots of hamburgers, hot dogs. Deb and I froze 200 ears of corn last Friday.
My God, God bless you.
My arm hurts.
Yep, I figured.
So they're frozen and we'll pull them out. So that's saved. Fire department's coming back, so I think we're kind of
School board,
set. Pardon?
school board?
The school board will be here, they can put something on Front Porch Forum about it, and they are bringing their students to talk about the school.
Very good.
Yeah. Anything else?
It's not gonna rain.
No.
Maybe rained this morning and it wasn't supposed to.
Alright. So I hope to see you all there. So I'll take a motion to adjourn.
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carried at 7:38.